Chapter 3.
Naomi?
Yeah, start from the beginning. But pay attention to what you're reading.
Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, I must seek security for you, that it may go well with you." Now Boaz, our relative, with whose maidens you have been, will be winnowing barley tonight on the threshing floor.
Okay, so where's Boaz going to be?
Winnowing barley.
In the threshing floor. Okay? He's going to be there at night. Go.
Therefore, bathe and anoint yourself, don your finery, and go down to the threshing floor, but do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking.
What does that mean? In your own words.
Doll yourself up.
What? Doll yourself up? I want Bernie. I want to see what he says on this.
Make it look good.
Look good and do what?
Make sure he sees you once he's done working.
Not working.
Once he's drunk.
Okay? That's a little different, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he says, working.
You're drinking, I guess.
So what's the case now? Tell me what did you understand from right up to now?
The mother wants to marry off her daughter, or in other words, security.
Yeah, good.
So, it says Boaz, a relative.
Yeah, he's a relative of theirs.
Cousin.
So back then, cousins was okay to marry.
Still
cousins?
okay. You can marry your Jewish cousin.
Okay, so the mother-in-law wants her daughter to marry their cousin. So she has to look good, and once he's done working and he's drunk.
Or not drunk, that he drank.
Once he's got a buzz.
Once he's refreshed.
Refreshed.
Once he's caught a buzz.
It doesn't say beer.
Oh.
That's what you call it.
Yeah.
You're like, now you've got the soft Barry Manilow music going on. He's drunk,
To me, every meal is like chicken and beer. That's just all I can.
Chicken and beer, okay?
Chicken and beer.
Okay?
Okay.
So now read 4, verse 4.
And when he lies down, note the place where he lies, and go over, uncover his feet, and lie down. He will tell you what you are to do.
What does that mean?
He's gonna want her to rub his feet.
Amongst other things.
Is this? You're reading scripture.
Yeah, it's a little.
What's going on here? Keep going. Verse 5.
She replied, "So that you say to me, I will do. All that you say to me, I will do."
Right, so the mother-in-law says, look, I want you to have security in your life. Boaz is a relative. We need to make this happen. I want you to doll up, go there at night. He's alone. And wait till he ate and he is refreshed. And while he lays down, go next to him and lie down and uncover him. And then do whatever he says. Now, yesterday we read that Ruth was a big, righteous woman that was modest, that behaved herself in the utmost modesty rules of Judaism. What is going on here? Do you understand the question that I'm raising? If you read the story, it looks like what? That she is a bit open. Seducing him.
Doesn't Kedushin say this is one of the ways to marry also?
What?
Like, conjugal relations is a form
In front of 2 witnesses. They don't have to be in the room. Saying, I'm sorry, that's not, you're going to have to do it again. That's not what it meant. It meant that when you come before 2 witnesses and say, we're doing this for marriage, but the rabbis say, although it works, we say no, and whoever does it, Malchus. We don't want our daughters treated that way. We don't treat Jewish girls like that.
Why does she have to hide?
Yeah.
He's drunk.
No, but like, why does she have to, like, he noticed her in the first place. Like,
She has to hide until
why is she
do-
sneaking
yeah,
in?
Don't make yourself known.
until.
Oh, do not make yourself known.
Right. So
Okay.
so it's like he noticed her in the
Maybe
feet.
she's hiding. Maybe she's not there yet.
So let's start learning. let's start learning what it really means. And this is why we don't read the text without the rabbinical explanation. Why?
What you thought I want. Like,
No, I wanted to see your face like, what is going on here? Right? And you were there. You were like that. You're saying
Well, your biggest reaction was to the fact that they were cousins.
cousins.
was there more like birth effects back in the day because people.
I know people who have married their first cousins.
Marrying,
First cousins, there's no problem.
I've
I hate to ruin it.
It's really weird because they look kind of similar.
Sending a young woman to not a bedroom, to a threshing floor.
And what we know about Ruth up until this point is that she's a very noble.
She's what's a threshing floor? When you bring in the wheat, or in this case the barley, you have to separate the chaff from the, so you go to the threshing floor and you thrash the thing and it separates. No, so he'll be done, then he'll eat and drink, and he stays asleep there so that nobody will steal his stuff. So you go over there, not seen, I don't want you to get caught.
Right.
And you get over there and you lay next to him. See what the problem is now.
Intense. Yeah.
So the problem is that we have a nice Jewish girl
Right.
that is very modest up to now.
Right.
And now her mother-in-law is saying, doll up, go to the drunk guy. She's not drunk. And lay next to him and do whatever he tells you to do. Are you allowed to lay next to a young woman if you're not married to her?
You can even be alone in the same room.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I don't know. What I
So you think Naomi didn't know the Torah? She's sending her daughter-in-law to sin?
Seems that way.
But they're both, Boaz and her, are so modest that, I mean, I doubt he would ask her to do stuff that wasn't allowed.
Maybe he would
But
never
the
get
fact
the
that
hint
she
unless
was
she was
He would never get the hint?
unless she was brazen.
So she needs to uncover his feet.
Because he's older too. He would never.
So here we go.
He's clueless.
Here we go. Can I? Fine. Now I see. Now I see. So look, let's learn now one by one. Okay. So she says to him, go at night. Why at night? Rashi says because this was a time where people would steal. Remember? This is a generation where people were stealing left and right. And so he sleeps there so nobody steals his harvest. That's why go there at night. That's what Rashi says. And you should wash yourself. So Rashi says, from the avodah zarah of yours, go to the mikveh. Goes to the mikveh. And v'sacht, that is the mitzvahs. Do more mitzvahs. And put on your clothes. So wear your Shabbos clothes. She told her, doll up. That's what Rashi says. And go to the threshing floor. And make sure that Boaz doesn't see you. So Rashi says. So, what does the Malbim tell us to do? So the Malbim says that here's what happened. That wash yourself. That she needs to get ready and get dressed with your Shabbos clothes to get to the Goren. Okay? And the mitzvah is that once all the workers go home, you sneak into the threshing floor, and he's going to eat, and there everybody would think that you left and you went home, but you really are there. Okay? That's what the Malbim says. And then once he's done, right? Then get dressed, wear your Shabbos clothes, carry them with you, says the Malbim, and dress in the threshing floor. Not otherwise, people are going to go, why is she wearing her Shabbos clothes in like 6 o'clock on a Wednesday? It's a little weird, right? So, that's what the Malbim says. And Boaz was going to be in the Goren, and he's going to sleep there. So what's going on? Says the Malbim. Hem boshul militboa et Boaz bapeh. They were embarrassed to ask Boaz to marry Ruth openly. They were afraid to go to him and say, listen, Boaz, marry Ruth. They were embarrassed. Why?
So they'd rather entrap him?
No. She said, do it in a way that it will be clear to him his two options, either marry or not. And do it privately so that he is not embarrassed or humiliated publicly for saying no.
There is still another way to do it. You can do something quietly or openly and being very clear without just being very nicely dressed.
Wait,
Go
listen.
and then, yeah.
Wait. So he says, why does she need to marry Boaz? The Malbim explains to us a bit of, and I don't know that I could say that. I need Eric, okay, because he's very strict about this thing. Malbim gives us tells us what's happening according to Kabbalah. I don't know, do you want to get into Kabbalah now, or should we leave it alone? You can handle it? Okay, so everybody water it down. There's no water for me to
It
down.
could be a little too bitter. People can't handle
Okay, here we go.
What's the same mind?
So he says that the Yibum and Chalitzat Nal, Yibum is the biblical law that says that if Reuven marries Rachel and Reuven dies without having any children, according to the Torah, Rachel has to marry Reuven's brother Shimon. It's called Yibum. And if Shimon refuses to marry Rachel, there's a ceremony called Chalitzat Nal, the removal of the shoe, where they go through this and she can marry any person. So the Malbim says, Yibum is to tell us that the body is the shoe of the soul. Your body is the shoe of the soul. Where is your soul? People say, oh, it's in here. Boom. I'm kidding.
Soul, like the sole of your foot?
Soul, S-O-U-L. The soul, the nefesh is, this is like, part of it, at the end, the lowest part of the nefesh is your body, which is like the shoe. Okay? And he says that the neshama, the spiritual neshama, cannot exist in the world of material existence without a body. It requires a body. So therefore, a person who dies without children, his soul has no connection to physicality whatsoever. And therefore, that soul is looking for physicality. And the law of Yibum allows to create a body for that soul to go into. And that's what Naomi and Ruth want to do for the husband or the son of Naomi. That's why they need Boaz.
That would be uncovering his feet.
We'll get into why uncover, why like this, why like that. We'll get into it.
But that was my thought when I read it.
Yes.
So is that the same reason why people have kids and like even without Ibum, where it's just you have regular kids? Like that's the idea is to keep.
So the once the soul has a child, it is a connection between your soul and your father's soul. Yeah, absolutely. You are a tikkun of your father. You are to repair an aspect of your father. That is, your behavior shows him what he needs to repair. And your children will show you what you need to repair.
Yeah, but how do you get them to listen?
What? How the child?
No, how do you get the father to listen?
No, but then you fix it in yourself. Because they will see the problem of there in you. And they're going to say that he's just like me. What?
That's why my dad doesn't like me being here.
Right? They see it. They see it. And you're going to have a child and you're going to see in him the things that you need to fix. And by raising that child, you are fixing, you're working on those things.
So it's almost like your faults are the first things that arise in kids. Their faults are the first things that they really develop.
Okay. So the Malbim continues and says that really the son of Boaz, which is Oved, is Machlon, son of Naomi. The soul of the dead son, Machlon, goes into this body, the baby that they're going to produce. A shoe. Okay? But if he won't do it, that's why we remove the shoe. Why is the ceremony about removal of the shoe? It's to remind us that the soul requires a shoe. You're not willing to create a body as the shoe. We will remove the shoe from you.
But this would be confusing because you remove the shoe when the brother refuses to marry the widow.
Correct. That's the whole point. Because you're refusing to do it, we remind you that you are refusing to produce
Taking off the shoe
a shoe.
is like, are you refusing or what?
You have refused to provide a shoe for the neshama.
Does she take off Boaz's shoe?
Wait. You're already jumping to the solution. It's 3:30. I have till 3:45. And if I really want to, I can go to 3:46 and a half. I'm very radical.
Be compassionate, Robert.
I don't know if I can learn that much today.
A minute and a half extra.
Have mercy.
That's right.
Where's
That's right.
your attribute of mercy?
So, this is what she hinted to Boaz when she laid next to his feet. She said, "You are my yibum. You have two." If she removes the covering on his feet, saying, "If you don't marry me, we are going to have to. You're refusing to give me a shoe." And laying next to him, he says that by marrying me, we are going to cover your feet. Because you are going to produce a body for the neshama of Machlon. That's why she's doing this. She's doing it in a way that he has the absolute ability to say yes or no. Any sort of interaction between them in front of people is going to put him in an embarrassing position. Because he is the leading judge of the city. You can't just walk up to him in the street and two girls and two women saying, "By the way, marry me or not?" Can't do it. It doesn't work.
If he doesn't have any shoe, he cannot refuse him. Because
No,
he
but
cannot get rid of his shoe.
What? No, but the uncovering of the feet is a sign of chalitza, of not putting on a shoe. And covering when she covers him with her whatever you'll see when we read it, that tells him that either it's up to you, and he can decide. That's what the Malbim explains. So what you thought was going on, that here's a drunk guy, a girl's coming over all dolled up, right? And she's hitting on him, seducing him, not at all. Not at all.
Is this written in code like the other Megillah to not be to be more acceptable to the society?
We're reading, and I'm telling you what Rashi says with the
Esther
Malbim.
had code so that it would be okay in Persia. They wouldn't.
This one is, listen, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you the emes, the truth. Not that I didn't tell you the truth up to now, but really, to try to understand the mind of God requires lots and lots of help from Him. People read the story and think that it's just a story. And when you read the story, you realize that you essentially contradict the basic tenets of Judaism. So you have two choices in this story. If you read it just like this, you end up thinking that that Naomi, so pardon my French, was pimping her daughter-in-law by sending her to sleep with Boaz. Just chas v'shalom.
It does read like that.
Why? So it means that, so what's going on here? It's telling us something. That if you read a Jewish text, and the way that you're reading it ends up contradicting the basic tenets of Judaism, which is modesty, and that we don't promiscuous sexual relations, it contradicts it. It means that your reading is wrong. Your reading is wrong. So then you have two choices. One choice, which we reject completely, is to say they didn't keep modesty rules back then. Nonsense. Nonsense. Or to say, to be more humble, and look at what the Meforshim explain. The Meforshim show you what is going on. The Meforshim are not making this up as they go along. They have the ability, through the Torah study that they've done, to tell you what these words imply. And they show you that it doesn't contradict the basic tenets of Judaism. It is a very, very important lesson in learning Jewish texts. When you read it, and if it seems to contradict a tenet of Judaism, a halacha of Judaism, it doesn't mean that the halacha was made up later. It means that you misunderstood what the text said. So take a break, serenity now, and look at the Meforshim, and they will clarify the situation for us. That's why I was so emphatic at having you read and tell me, what do you think is going on here? Because when you read it and you see, it's like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. What's going on here? And that's that's the difference between learning with a Masorah, with a tradition that is passed on from generation to generation, or when you just pick up a text and read it on your own. You read on your own, you come up with a very warped understanding of what Judaism teaches, because it seems to be encouraging promiscuous and seductory behavior. What? No, I whenever I teach Ruth, that's how I lead. I want all the guys to think exactly what you said. I want every single guy to get to that, because then you show him you can't trust your mind without calibrating it. Talked about that. If you didn't calibrate it correctly, you end up with a conclusion that doesn't make sense. Stop. Evaluate other options. Yes. I know I'm going over and over. I'm sorry.
I think, but obviously when it says now boys are relative, they're only relatives because she married his brother. So they're
Cousin.
actually cousins, so they're not actually related.
But it's okay anyway.
No, but it's even, I can make it even, I can make the kasha that you're asking, that you're raising even stronger. If we learned like Rashi in the Malbim, and not like Ibn Ezra, when did she convert? After she got married or before?
Afterwards.
After, which means she's not related to her former husband. Because when a person converts, he's like a brand new person, which means there is no familiar relations at all to Machlon. It's a bigger, much harder question to ask. It's a much stronger question. That's why Ibn Ezra says there's no way that she converted afterwards. She converted before. And she's just stuck with it.
So even so, by saying that she's a relative means that you could even say that she converted before.
Well, that's what Ibn Ezra says. Exactly. Correct.
Correct.
But Rashi and the Malbim read this book, and they knew it a lot better than you and me. And they said, no, she converted when she came to Eretz Yisrael. So the question is, how do we answer up for them? So that's the cliffhanger for next time. We'll get to that. I have time. I'm going to 3:46 and a half.
Beautiful.
All right, vámonos. So let's see what she actually does. So verse 6. Go, Asher.
Yep. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything as her mother-in-law instructed her. Boaz ate and drank, and his heart was merry.
Right. So what? I'm going to stop you here. In verse 6, it says that she went down to the Goren, and she did. Rashi says the order here is different. Rashi reads the verses and says, if you look at this, the order is different. What does she say? It says here, wash, get dressed, and then go to the threshing floor. And what does she do?
She went down to the threshing floor.
She went to, and then she did it. Which means what?
She was washing them.
No, for sure she washed before, because you can't wash yourself. Right. So she washed herself, went to the threshing floor, and there she got dressed. Why?
To avoid looking suspicious?
You just exactly said what Rashi said. Rashi said that she said, I don't want anybody to think that I'm a prostitute, that I'm coming here to seduce him. Which means what? Rashi's learning there's no way that this could be like the pshat, that she's going over there to seduce him. She's so worried that somebody was going to misinterpret it. She's walking around in these beautiful clothes in the middle of the week. And like, what is going on? Where's she going? So she walked into the threshing floor, dressed with her regular clothes, and she got dressed in there, so that nobody would ever suspect her. And you all accused her of being a little sassy. That's the point. Let's keep going. So, then what? Vayitav libo, it says. Vayitav libo, his heart was? Married. Rashi says, what does that mean? When does someone's heart become merry? When he learns Torah. He was learning Torah before he went to sleep. That's what people do. So you want to tell me that a guy who's learning Torah, now he's going to tell her to get undressed and do all sorts of funky things? Eric, I don't know where you're... Get your mind out of the gutter.
So it doesn't just mean he ate and drank and he was a little drunk.
No! Because you're not allowed to be drunk in Judaism.
Or merry.
Happy!
When we do l'chaim.
Vayitav libo.
This reads like he did l'chaim.
But it says lev. Lev is where the mind is. Lev is not where your body is. Lev. The mind. And she... Go.
So she went. Wait. Which one?
He wanted to lie down.
No. So go. And he came to lie down.
He went to lie down at the end of the grain pile, and she came stealthily, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, the man was startled and turned about. There was a woman lying at his feet.
Dun, dun, dun. And we stop here. We will continue on Sunday. Dun, 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 dun. Eric, that's a cliffhanger, right? Like, what?
We got 4 minutes.
No, that clock is slow. I go by mine.